holes for plug welds on the floor pan. Brandon's going to put rust converter on the cross members to start. We missed making a video last week because Brandon didn't come in. And then tomorrow morning we're going to try to get it tacked in place. Brandon's going to weld it in. After we did the initial video, I did clean up the edges and stuff on the floor pan and do the final trim, and then take the top of the cross members and clean them. But Brandon has to put rust converter on. I'm going to drill the plug holes for the 2 cross members, and then we'll pick up in the morning. Right now what I'm doing is I'm going by the sense of feel where the cross member is, and I'm marking it. And I got to drill plug weld holes. From the factory they would have been pinch welds or spot welds, but we're going to do plug welds.
So in another video, these brake lines are coming out. They're not going to be there much longer.
They have to be replaced. There's nothing left. Everybody has their own opinion on what to do here. I don't have a spot welder with arms that long, so we're going to drill 1/4-inch hole. We're going to plug weld it real good. But what I do is, the hole next to it, I use a self-tapping sheet metal screw to pull it down to the cross member tight, plug weld it, and then take that one out, move it to the next hole to pull it down tight, so on and so forth. That way we know there's full contact and there's no gap. What Brandon is going to do is he's going to get the shop vac and suck all this crud out. Now on this one, I do have to repair part of it. Not wasting $98 on a floor cross member. I could just make a sheet metal patch and weld that in. This one's actually pretty good. They were galvanized from the factory. This one held up a lot better. And Brandon is going to treat the inner surface with a rust converter. We're not going to do that on the top. We're going to use a galvanized, cold galvanized spray weld through primer, whatever you want to call it, to make sure it's protected after we weld it.
Good.
Okay.
So I'm going to vacuum out all the dirt and crud. And then lightly wire brush everything, and then put primer on it. So
Rust converter,
same thing.
So what we are going to do is we are going to put rust converter on that, but that is the back body mount bolt. We're going to put PB Blaster on it before we do anything, because eventually we are probably going to put body bushings on it. They're not actually that bad, but we're going to probably put polyurethane ones on. Okay, so we bought this off of eBay. It was like $19.95 for a gallon, $6 to ship. It's phosphoric acid solution. It's not quite a gel, but it's a little bit thicker. It converts rust and no need to clean off afterwards, and you can prime over it. I've used it in the past. It works very well. It's way cheaper than buying Rust-Oleum rust converter or Eastwood rust converter. Some people make videos about making their own rust converter. It's the same stuff, but it works good. Brandon did clean the cross members again after he wire brushed them. And yes, the back cross member does have a little piece missing. I'm going to make a patch to go on. We will weld it on afterwards. I drilled 1/8-inch pilot holes just because I have bad shoulders. Then I'll go over them again with a 1/4-inch drill bit. They're going to be the plug welds, simulated spot welds, whatever you want to call them, for the floor pan. Now, the factory spot welded this seam to the inner rocker panel. I am going to, I believe a stronger way to do it instead of spot welding it will be tack weld on the top and bottom in an alternating pattern. And then of course this top seam is going to be sealed with seam sealer once we're done. If you wanted to do it factory correct, it should be plug welded, but we're not doing that. So this was over the winter time. That's when you get your best deals on Marketplace. Sometimes at a swap meet too, but I originally got this for Brandon. And the reason I bought this was because the guy said perfect cylinders. The guy assured me there was no ridge. And there's not. But the guy left it upside down in his yard on 2 boards for 3 months. So there was a little bit of rust in the cylinders. Don't know if it's going to clean up. Might have to be bored over. So we have a rebuildable 400 small block. I didn't pay too much for it. It was $200, so not bad. If it has to be bored, whatever. But in the meantime, I found this. It's a 817 casting number 400 small block. It is bored 60 over. A lot of people don't like doing that on 400s. But the crank was cut. New rod and main bearings. Pistons and rings. We got it up on the engine stand. It was sitting on an engine cradle for about 4 months now. We are going to check one bearing, main bearing, and one rod bearing with plastic gauge to make sure. But clean it up. We're going to put a cam in it. Also, when I picked this up, I bought a set of Dart 180 cast iron heads. It's a real good deal, but they're at the machine shop getting valve job and new valve springs. It'll be a nice streetable high torque motor. We'll have more videos on this to come. So when you're doing a project car, you have to have realistic goals. And we started the floor replacement video about a month ago. Life gets in the way, but you have to have goals or a plan. When we got the car last summer, we got it running. The rear main seal leaked. It was only a 305. Tore out the motor. Brandon cleaned and painted the engine compartment. So those are done. We have a list of things we're going to do, and they don't have to be done in this order, but you have to have a path or a plan, a goal, whatever. And that helps you keep on track of getting the vehicle finished. But some of the things we're going to do, we're going to finish the floor video, and we're probably going to have to do the front passenger side floor. Rocker panels, passenger side quarter panel. Treat and paint the undercarriage. Obviously, we're not going to put brake lines on the car until after the underneath of it's done. Then we'll put the brake lines on and the brakes. And we're going to work on the engine and the transmission. We're just going to clean and put back in. It's already ready.
Oh, is that it?
That's it.
You have to have more enthusiasm.
Brandon?
It's good.
Are we ready to go?
Yes, it's started.
Okay, so we have a hole here. We have a hole here. And we have not quite a hole here, a couple pinholes. I'm going to patch these with very thin metal. It's 22 gauge before we put the floor in. And I also have to make a repair patch for this cross member. I'm not going to buy a new cross member when I can fix this one. So I'm going to make measurements, and then these are obviously flat pieces. We'll just, for now, tack them in before the floor. But this piece I have to form. And I'm going to do it with a hammer and an anvil. I'm going to use this metal. It's just scrap metal I had laying around. It's really thin, which is perfect for where this is going because it has to be thin enough to not take up extra space. I'm going to cut the patches out, tack weld them in. The patch for the cross member I have to form. I have a homemade anvil I made out of a piece of railroad track. That's what we're going to use. Okay, that patch is welded completely in. I'm going to cover it with zinc primer. These ones I'm not, they're only tacked in. They will be welded in when the floors get welded in. So once I put the zinc primer on that, it's going to dry quick because it's still a little warm. And then we'll place the floor panel. See how it fits.
Not much is coming out.
Actually, I might have to grind that. I definitely have to grind that.
You shouldn't do that without gloves, right? But you still did.
I shouldn't what?
You shouldn't do that without gloves, but you still did.
We should probably have a safety disclaimer to saying don't do what we do.
I'll say it right now.
Alright, that can is cooked. So I'm going to line up the
I'm high. Woo!
I can to where it was. Once I get it where it's close or where I want it, I'm going to put a few sheet metal screws in, self-tappers, to hold it in place. And then I'm going to clamp the flange to the rocker flange so it pulls it over. Then I'm going to put a few tack welds in, and then that's it for today. We're going fishing. So we have the floor partially tacked in. Good enough. Tacking it in. Brandon's going to weld it. It went fairly well. You didn't see the parts of the video where I started cursing because sometimes you get aggravated. Sometimes you bump your hand. Sometimes you burn your finger. If you get mad at the project, stop what you're doing and walk away. As far as safety, you should always have another person watching while you weld on a vehicle because there's so many things that could light on fire.
That would be me.
I doing these videos are not definitive ways to do it. I'm not giving advice in any way, shape, or form. You do what you want. Do not do what I do. This is just for purposes of demonstration. Doesn't mean you do what I do and something goes wrong and you blame me. That's on you.
So we will be back next week. I'll be welding in the floor. And then he's gonna order a front floor. And then, yeah. That's pretty much it. There's gonna be a part 3 next week. But yeah, thanks for watching.